Today on Riffs, Beards, and Gear, we talk about businesses acquiring other businesses. With the recent news, I would say, I think it was about a week ago now, that a Fender buying Presonus, I think that got a lot of people's gears turning as to what it really means in today's world when a company will buy another known established company, like Fender did with Presonus. Now, in the music industry, a company acquiring another company is not new, but I think traditionally, as, I don't know, maybe modern musicians, we are kind of trained to think of any kind of transaction or acquisition as a negative thing, because we grow up hearing things like, CBS taking over Fender and how they penny pinched Fender to death, or Norlin buying Gibson and things like that. But I think having some perspective on modern acquisitions is kind of important. So back in the 60s, when CBS acquired Fender, the electric guitar itself had been around for, 15 years? Not even 20 years, technically, at that point. So, it was a fairly new thing, and big companies were trying to get into and buy their way into the music industry. And I think that's a little different than other music industry brands acquiring strategically other brands. Same with Norlin and Gibson in the 70s. It's a little bit of a different situation than, say, Fender buying Presonus. Now, in modern times, this is often a pretty good thing, I would argue. Back in 2013, Yamaha acquired Line 6. Now, at that time, Line 6 was not doing so great. And really, Line 6 had sudden access to Yamaha's engineering and their resources, and that relationship gave us the Helix, among many, many other things. But the Helix is what I think of when I think of the Line 6 Yamaha acquisition. Now, fast forward 2 years later, and Behringer bought TC Electronic. Now, I remember being pretty shocked by that. I haven't seen any adverse effects from TC Electronic on the consumer side. I don't know anybody at TC Electronic, but their pedals are still great. They're still roadworthy. They still hold up. I don't know. I mean, I don't think anything has really changed as far as that goes. And I think that is also a good example of a company like Behringer buying, TC Electronic and not really doing anything to it. Because why would a company buy another company? Let's talk about that. So obviously, a company is going to buy another company for money. And not like automatically they're going to make money, but they're looking at the long game and how they can stuff the pockets and their shareholders and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes it's more than that. I would argue it's more than that for Fender buying Presonus. So when you have a company like Presonus, which my band uses on tour, everybody at some point, if you're a home recording guitar player, you have owned something by Presonus. And I think this is Fender really recognizing that the modern entry point to guitar playing is going to be at home with an audio interface plugged into a computer. And my immediately thought when I heard the news was, aha, Fender starter packs. How great would it be to get an actual Fender branded starter pack utilizing Presonus's interfaces, and they'll have a Fender branded cheaper interface that's made by Presonus included in a Strat starter pack, for example. That's brilliant. Now, another acquisition that I thought was a pretty good thing, if you guys remember back in about a year ago, Gibson acquired Mesa Boogie. Now, that wasn't a total we're gonna take you over or anything like that people made it out to be, but really, this is Mesa Boogie gaining access to Gibson's decades old, almost century old distribution network, and utilizing Gibson's resources as well as Gibson utilizing the amplifier side, as opposed to starting to make their old Atlas amps themselves or something like that, right? So for an acquisition like Gibson and Mesa Boogie, that makes total sense. You got to have something to plug your guitars into, so why not buy an amp company and promote them as well. Anyways, my point is, when I saw the news of Fender buying Presonus, I thought, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't see a ton of negative feedback about that specific acquisition, because I don't think a lot of people are like, Presonus, oh my God, now I have a pre-Fender Presonus Studio Live or something like that. Also, now that I say Studio Live, their mixers as well are amazing. Presonus really has the hardware game pretty unlocked, so it makes even more sense when you really think about it from the low end to the high end that Fender would want in on that. That makes a lot of sense to me. But anyway, acquisitions aren't always a bad thing. There have been lots of modern good examples, and you know what? Ultimately, it's going to drive growth and competition, which I am here for. You've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you liked the video you just watched, please consider subscribing. And if you want to further support me and what I do, consider using some of the affiliate links down below in the description of this video. Go on over to Sweetwater, buy yourself something, and help me out at the same time. It's a win-win for both of us.